Good afternoon, good morning, and welcome back to the FFS podcast. I'm your host, Pratty, once again, and this is episode number 3 of the podcast coverage of the FIFA World Cup 2022 in Qatar. For today's episode, we're going to be recapping what happened in the quarterfinal round of the FIFA World Cup, and we'll also hint and talk about the semifinals and what we're going to be expecting from the next knockout phase. Joining me on today's podcast, we've got two very special guests. They've been on the podcast multiple times, and uh, Arjun and Aaron. I'm glad we could have you on here. We're going to skip over introductions because we've had you on the podcast multiple times. I'm sure you're sick of trying to say the same things over and over again. So if you don't know who they are, I recommend you go check out our previous podcast. That'll also help get the viewership numbers up for the older ones. But let's get talking about the quarterfinal stage of the World Cup. Now, if you've been watching our coverage of the World Cup, we covered the group stage by playing Jeopardy. It's a US based game show. Then we recapped the round of 16 stage by playing a version of code names where we had people guess the players, managers, or the countries that were involved in the round of 16 stage. And now for this particular stage, we have, I wouldn't say it's a game, but we're going to try and recap it in a different way. What we're going to be doing is we're going to have our guests recap the quarterfinal games, but they're only going to have 90 seconds to tell us everything that happened in the 4 games across the weekend. I would say Friday evening counts as weekend. So yeah, let's call that. So what I'm going to do is first let me share my screen and then I'll tell you what we're going to be doing. All right. So let's do that. There we go. All right. So as you can see, we've got like a roulette wheel or roulette. So we've got a spinning wheel there. They've got the 4 games that happened in the quarterfinals, and we'll start in alphabetical order. So we'll start with Aaron. Before that, I'll just put up a timer just so that I am ready to go when you are. So that's 1 minute 30 seconds. Great. All right. So Aaron, the game that you will have to review is Morocco, Portugal. All right. So you've got 90 seconds to recap whatever happened in the Morocco, Portugal game. And your time starts now.
Well, to start off with, let's say wishful thinking works because I did say that I wanted Morocco through. So, woohoo. But yeah, I mean, I think the game basically was set up just as we called it. We knew that Portugal would probably be more of the aggressors in that game. But like we said, all tournament is just the fight and the desire that Morocco has been displaying throughout the tournament. We had a couple of casualties along the way, and yeah, that day was no different. So yeah, I think we've got a center back that's off now, so interesting times for them. But yeah, in general, the game was pretty exciting to watch. Morocco had their moments. The one that sticks in your mind was probably the one-on-one chance towards the end of the game where it was a horrible attempt at a chip over the goalkeeper. But yeah, I mean, you can't take anything away from Morocco because you did see glimpses of quite a few impressive runs that they had, and I can't remember the name of the midfielder. It was their number 8 that really made a couple of driving runs. So yeah, a really nice game, a good watch. Portugal probably just didn't have the final ball, but yeah, I think Morocco's endeavor and just the drive and fight was what got them through in the end.
Oh, brilliant. All right, great. Don't worry. For those of you who are listening to this or watching this, that's not how we're going to recap this. We will delve into each of these games in greater detail. So we're not just leaving it at 90 seconds and that's it. All right, next, Arjun, we've got your game. And your game is. I hope it doesn't fall on the same category, but sure. No, it doesn't. All right. Your game is England versus France. Ooh, that's a big one. And your time starts now.
Yeah, very, very good tactical game. That's the one thing that stands out. I think. I think before the game, you've heard a lot about England saying about Project Mbappe, which was essentially just Kyle Walker and Jordan Henderson doubling on Mbappe, and that kind of worked the whole game. I think France didn't create as much. Statistically, their expected goals was much lesser than England's. I think England had double the amount of expected goals that France did. But England were not ruthless enough. And I don't want to say this because it's an easy route out, but you cannot have your national team captain who has not won anything in his career playing big games do this. He's the only reason England have not been in a World Cup final and now not been in a World Cup semi-final single-handedly. So I think it was just individually playing like not finishing well. I think the players tried hard. They fought much better than last time. England had the better chances, but France were more ruthless. France have been here before, and they came out on top. Giroud, wonderful header, good chances again. Xiaomeni, brilliant goal. Saka did everything good for England.
All right. Great. I was wondering whether you'd get to that. I was wondering whether you'd get to that. We'll definitely. I want to talk about that in greater detail later
Yeah.
on. And the next one. All right. Next one, Aaron. Yours is going to be. So we've covered half of it. Oh, we're going to be talking about your favorite team. It's Croatia versus Brazil.
Playing a Brazilian fan dirty here.
Exactly. All right. Your time starts now.
Yeah, I mean, I think again we went through this over the last podcast where we said that Croatia is going to be one of those tougher teams to get by, because just basically because everyone kind of underestimates them and underestimates the experience that they have in that squad. I mean, you can just take a look at a couple of their mainstays. You've got Lovren, you've got Modric and Kovacic, who's been around and done that, won big trophies for their club. So whole lot of experience there. Brazil, we've always kind of pointed it out. They have been uh, not the best finishers. Let's say, let's be a little bit kind to them. But yeah, they had plenty of chances throughout the course of the game to kind of get that goal and just weren't able to finish it. I would say though, as we have praised Neymar over throughout the course of this tournament, he did have a relatively decent game, and he was probably the only probably positive in that midfield that entire game. You could see the lack of imagination in that midfield when Croatia was sitting back. The creativity was lacking, and I think that's what got them in the end. Croatia, just the experience, they've been around, they know when it comes to penalties and the later stages of the game, they're probably going to hold their nerve. So yeah, credit to them.
Awesome. Great. All right. And I suppose I'm not going to do the wheel for the last one, but it is going to be Netherlands versus Argentina. Oh, it actually falls very good because we had the Brazil game reviewed by a Brazilian fan, and we got a Dutch game being recapped by someone who is in the Netherlands. So
Yeah.
I'm glad for that. All right. So Arjun, your time starts now.
Yeah, glad to review what I think was the best game in this World Cup. I think very physical game, 17 yellow cards, and that's something expected from both these teams because when you hear Netherlands, when you hear Argentina, the first thing anyone thinks of is they just kick everyone around, and that's the kind of game that actually ended up happening. So very good fight. I didn't even realize Dumfries was sent off for a second yellow at the end before the penalty shootout.
Oh, no
I had
wonder
idea
I
of
got
this.
it. Okay, no, so okay, never mind.
But tactically, for I think 75 minutes, it was Argentina all the way. Netherlands got out of their strategy by bringing on Weghorst and Luke De Jong. So they basically played like Route 1 football in the last 10 minutes of normal time and extra time. Very, very good fight back. I was impressed. I was more than surprised to see Netherlands fight back the way they did. I think tactically, they brought on Derun for Kaufmanners and Berghaus for Bergwijn. Played better, but didn't really create much after that. Penalty shootout was amazing. One of the best I've seen in a long, long time. But I think there are individual players of the Netherlands who are very disappointing in the game, and I think Argentina created the more better chances. But once Weghorst came on, he changed the game completely. So brilliant watch again.
Awesome. Yeah, I wanted to say, no wonder Dumfries got me -3 on fantasy team. I was wondering why. I was like, he didn't. I mean, fair enough, he let in 2 goals, or as a defensive unit, he let in 2 goals. But
Yeah,
oh my god, okay, no wonder.
yeah. I didn't even realize he got sent off during the game. Like I just saw the scoreboard after to see like when the subs were made, and I was like, oh, second yellow for Dumfries. Okay.
Okay, that would have been interesting to see. All right, I mean, brilliantly recapped, all within the 90 seconds. So I felt, yes, 90 seconds was a good enough time limit for all these games. But all right, let's talk about. We'll go in reverse order. So let's talk about the Netherlands Argentina, because I suppose, like Arjun mentioned, this was probably the most exciting game in the quarterfinals, if not the entire tournament. Like the fact. Okay, Arjun, I want to know, because you were watching it, I suppose, in Netherlands amongst the Dutch people. When they scored in the 90 whatever 8th minute, or which with the last seconds of the 9 seconds of the game, how was the atmosphere then?
Crazy. Like I think it was just a sea of orange. I think there was also viewing at the Johan Cruyff Arena, so they made the stadium into like this massive viewing viewing party, and it was like limbs, like crazy. I think even the free kick, more than like, I think the free kick was so well taken and so well rehearsed. I believe there were clips going around Twitter showing that Weghorst was actually has done this before in a club game for Wolfsburg. Exactly this in a free kick, where he was as a decoy next to the wall, the guy taking a free kick pass to him, and then scored. And exactly the same thing. It was crazy, but honestly, this game I was kind of supporting Argentina a little bit. I should not be saying this because
that's all right.
Yeah, I think the Dutch are very negative when it comes to their own team. I'm not generalizing, but I just feel they're very negative. But if you say something about it, I think they get very defensive. So I was discussing with one of my colleagues, and he was saying that yeah, statistics don't matter because Van Gaal will beat everyone. And I'm like, it doesn't work that way, you know. Like even previously in the World Cup, in even games against Ecuador and stuff, Netherlands performed worse statistically against these teams, and eventually that'll catch up to them. And for 80 minutes in this game, it did, because they were just not creating anything, you know. So I think the better team won, and the better team deserved to win.
All right, Aaron, what did you make of the game?
I think similar. I think for most part of the game, majority of the game, Argentina did have a good control, a good handle on the game. The defenders weren't really troubled as much, and you could see it in the build-up play of the Dutch. It was really them trying to figure out what to do next, because you saw a lot of square balls, a lot of balls passed between the defenders, and then eventually once in a while even going back to the keeper, just because they didn't know how to move forward. So yeah, it was a bit of a puzzling tactic there. Maybe down to just the limitations of the creativeness in with the individual players, but yeah, Argentina seemed like a well-drilled machine. They knew the shape that they had to keep, and they maintained it well throughout the game. Yeah, a couple of hiccups with the 2 goals late on, and that was down to more, I think, Netherlands trying to change things up, getting 2 big, tall strikers in there. Their defenders also, Argentina, not the tallest. I mean, I think this was probably the first time where I was like, hey, Otamendi really does look small when compared to the strikers up front. So yeah, I mean, when you kind of throw that little bit desperation, it always is a little bit difficult to defend against that because it's really unexpected balls just bobbling around. And yeah, like Arjun mentioned, that free kick was something that was unique, something that you don't see many teams trying to do. And so, yeah, not the easiest to kind of be prepared against. But yeah, I think Argentina well deserved that win. And I think, yeah,
Le-
experience with the penalties, we've seen them
yeah,
even in the Copa America. They've been pretty solid. So, yeah, you couldn't put it past them.
yeah. I don't think it's the first time. Martinez has been involved in penalty shootouts before. He's been quite the
Yeah, he
valuable
has a good
keeper there.
record. He has a very good
Yeah,
record.
yeah. So it wasn't very surprising that. I mean, I suppose if you had Tim Krul, then it'd probably be more exciting. But the fact that Netherlands didn't really have, I mean, he had an unknown quantity. I didn't know the keeper that well to know whether he was a good penalty stopper or whatever. But the moment it went to penalties, you probably said that Argentina maybe had the upper hand. And I know we'll talk about it a little while later, but even though he missed it, it was nice to see Van Dijk probably take the ball first up and try to take the penalty. He has scored penalties before and quite well, but poor penalty, but still, I mean, glad to. I like I said, we'll talk
It
about
was
this
a
a little
good
while
save,
later in the
actually.
next game. Yeah,
Both were very good saves. They weren't like bad penalties per se. Even Berghaus' shot was very, very strong and
yeah.
just a good save.
Yeah, and the keeper chose the right direction, right? Like that's the main thing. Even if it was a lousy penalty, the keeper needs to kind of choose the right direction to stop it.
Yeah.
Uh, what did you guys make of the number of yellow cards? I mean, the referee just seemed to have become Mike Dean reincarnated. He's had this reputation, I think, in La Liga where he's been known to want to be the star of the show at times. And I mean, I've seen it in the Champions League games as well, where, he's sort of thought like, I want to make this, I want to run this show. And by doing that, he sort of tries to, I mean, then he probably should have had the whistle stuck to his mouth the entire game, the number of times it rang. So I don't know, what do you guys felt like it was a little too much that he should maybe let a few, like, just go on and let the game proceed, or fair enough in the way he went about it? Anyone who wants to take it?
I think, yeah, the ref does have a reputation to kind of be all gung ho or trigger happy with his yellow cards. But I think it may have been a little bit necessary in this game only because it was kind of getting a little bit out of hand towards the end of it. I think there was that incident where the ball was slammed into the Dutch dugout and things got kind of carried away a little bit. But I think it was kind of necessary to put out a couple of yellow cards, maybe not quite as much as he did in the end, but just to kind of tell the players, we've got a game to play over here and let's try and play the game rather than get under the opposition skin. So I think it is a very fine balance when it comes to these type of games because players are under a whole lot of pressure and everyone is here to win, and when you're in the final stages of the tournament everyone is desperate to get through. So you can't kind of hold it against the ref too much because you need to keep that balance of allowing the game to continue but also not letting things get out of hand because again you're just one incident away from something terrible happening, so you might as well try and keep a check on players. So yeah, I think it was maybe a little too much, but I don't see too much issue in it.
Okay, Arjun.
Yeah, I think like if you think about what kind of game it was, right? Like I haven't seen Messi after the game react that way ever.
Yeah.
Like you don't. He's like Messi, the best, most decorated player in the world, and in the post-match presentation, he's like, "What are you looking at, dummy?" To like Vegas, he called the guy
Right.
dummy. Like
Yeah.
if you have that kind of game, you expect like that kind of reaction post-game. The game itself is quite heated. So my only criticism was like in those four like fights between the teams during different points of the game, no yellow cards were given. Like even in the
Mm.
sequence that Aaron was mentioning, the only yellow card was given to Paredes when he made the foul, not when the whoever it was who kicked the ball to the Dutch dugout. No one got yellow carded. Van Dijk didn't get yellow carded for like
Yeah,
body checking
he
someone.
sent Paredes flying. Like he just ran
Like
right up to
it
him.
was pure emotion, and I think that's how a game should be. And when you hear like Argentina and like the Netherlands, both those teams are quite physical, so I think it was expected. And I think, yeah, I mean, if the game is physical, you have to give yellow cards, because if you analyze those individual challenges, they were worthy of yellow cards. And my criticism was probably like he was quite restrained. I know it sounds a bit funny to say that, because uh, if you look at those fights, more than one player should have been carded for it. More than one.
Yeah.
But again, I think in that situation, he let the game flow so that both teams didn't end with like 8 players on the pitch. But yeah, I think it was fun to see. Uh,
Fair enough. I just want to point out that to those of you who watched the round of 16 recap, we did do predictions for the quarterfinals, and I will be very happy to announce that I predicted it quite well. I did say that Netherlands and Argentina would go to penalties and that Argentina would win. So, and on another prediction thing, I got the scoreline as well spot on. So thank you very much. And yes, that's a point to me. All right, let's move on to the next game on our list, and that's the Croatia versus Brazil game. Oh, also before that, I want to say that Netherlands also probably have to thank me because and Aaron knows this. So when it was 2-0 and it was like the like 80th minute or whatever, I messaged on our group, like private group, saying that I'm gonna sleep now. Wake me up when there's a goal. The moment I close my eyes, I kid you not, I had the TV on though, and I had it not on mute, so I could hear what was going on. The moment I kept my glasses on the side and I closed my eyes, Weghorst scored the first goal, and I was like, "Shit!" I did say that. I was like, "I'm gonna sleep," and they scored, and yeah, I didn't sleep after that. Obviously, I was awake for the second goal, so uh, fortunately, yeah, that was a really. I'm glad that I stayed awake for that game, and I didn't think that Argentina would just keep it at 2-0. So I'm glad that happened. Let's move on to Croatia, Brazil, and Aaron. Let's talk about this in greater detail. I know you might not want to, but it felt. I don't know what you thought of the game, but for me, like we watched it together, but I don't like. It felt very drab for a while. Like it felt like Croatia came in with that clear game plan of just nullifying Brazil's attack. There, even Brazil were very poor. Like Vinicius was poor. Richarlison was his pigeon self. The one time I put him on the fantasy team as a captain, he decides to not show up. But yeah, Neymar probably the brightest spark in that game. What did you make of the entire 120 minutes plus penalties?
I think like we said in the last podcast, we kind of saw this coming. I kept drawing back to the World Cup back in Brazil, saying that let's not get carried away with that 4-1 victory that we had. Only because again we've seen that midfield, and though there was the one game where they got 4 goals, you've seen it throughout the tournament where there is a lack of imagination in the center of the park. It's predominantly the guys out wide that make the forward runs, and that's how we get into the final third. But when a team like Croatia is kind of solid at the back and is looking to defend first and then get you on the break, you do need some creativity in midfield. You do need someone trying to probably take a couple of shots from distance just to drag defenders out to open up space. And you didn't see that happening in Brazil, and with Brazil rather, and you kind of saw it coming that it is going to be kind of a dogfight. Croatia, credit to them. I mean, we always know that when it comes against teams that are considered to be more skilled or talented on paper, they kind of try and get you towards the deep end of the game where there are tired legs and they get you on the break. And it was amazing to see players as uh, like Modric, Kovacic. You could see them really dead tired towards the end of the game, but they stuck it out, kept to their task, closed down spaces, didn't allow Vinicius anything, didn't allow Rafinha anything, which then forced Brazil into changes that they probably didn't want to make. You saw Rafinha, Vinicius going off much sooner than you normally would have taken them off. Then Rodrigo coming in, who was probably as invisible on the pitch as Vinicius or Rafinha were. So yeah, it kind of felt like Brazil didn't have a plan B because the changes were probably just like for like rather than anything else. So
Yeah.
yeah, disappointing, but yeah, we kind of did see this being as a stumbling block for Brazil, and it turned out to be that way. So yeah,
I
not
don't
a
think
happy camper.
Rodrigo's I don't think Rodrigo's invisible with that bleached hair of his. It was definitely visible from the screens, but yeah,
Well,
it
he
made for
was he was lost amongst Neymar, Pedro,
yeah,
and the other bleached guys. So yeah, you could argue both ways.
yeah, I know. It was difficult viewing for a while because I didn't know who I was watching. I didn't know whether it was Neymar, whether it was Richarlison, whether it was Rodrigo, whether it was Anthony at one point. So yeah, it was crazy. Arjun, like Aaron mentioned, like there was this, like Tite was probably forced to make these changes early on, or maybe sooner than he'd want to. Did you think as well that like he maybe should have kept on those players for the longer for longer, knowing that they weren't anyway getting the breakthrough? Perhaps this was going to go the extra mile, so maybe even if they weren't going to score now, rather bring the fresh legs later on.
I think if you think about the game as a whole, like Croatia's only shot on target was their goal.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
like, if you keep a team out for 110 odd minutes, I think game plan wise you're doing the right thing, right? Like you're playing in a attacking formation enough to nullify the strengths of the opposition. But again, like the substitutions, as Aaron mentioned, all of them were like for like. So
yeah,
very disappointed with Anthony. Like I think he only has he's a bit of a one trick pony, a little bit. Maybe Rodrigo on that side would have been better.
yeah,
I'm not saying this because I'm an Arsenal fan, but Martinelli statistically
yeah.
was very, very good this World Cup. I think he, in like all statistics across all teams, I think he has most amount of touches in the penalty box for a Brazilian player, and he's only started a single game, and that's what you needed in a game like yesterday. Friday. You needed like more directness. You needed someone to actually take the ball, run with it, and do something. Even Neymar didn't do anything until the goal. Like he was quite anonymous until the goal. My biggest criticism of why they lost was they celebrated at halftime of extra time. They were all celebrating. I'm like, guys, the job is not done. You have 15
Yeah.
more minutes to play. And even the subs that Tite bought on then was Fred for Paqueta and Alexandro for whoever the left back was, Danilo.
Yeah.
Militao.
No,
So
they took out Militao. That's even
sorry,
worse.
Militao for Alexandro. So
Yeah,
like make defensive changes. Like you should have the guts to remove like Rodrigo, bring on a defender, or like it's a World Cup. It's a tactical game. Like be defensive. Like finish the game out. See the game out. Like I think that's why also Tite had to take responsibility and
yeah.
resign because it was his job to keep the players focused, and they
Like,
just lost focus.
my thing is they didn't do anything creative for the first 105 minutes, but once they scored the goal they decided, okay, now's the time to play football, when in fact that's the time you should sit back and
Stop. Yeah.
nullify.
I mean,
Yeah, just
I
stop
think
playing.
Yeah, I mean, even if the game is drab, right? Like
Yeah,
now Croatia are chasing the game,
yeah,
right? And it's in your stance or you have three fresh attackers. Croatia is chasing the game. You don't need to take the game to them.
yeah.
And this is not any complicated like tactical wisdom. Nothing. This is just simple football. Like, there's no shame in winning a game 1-0. Like, you
Yeah,
could just hold back, relax, let Croatia come to
y-
you, exploit the
you're
gaps,
here
go
to
proper attack.
you're
You
here
know,
to win games and make it through to the later stages of the World Cup. You're not here to please fans in playing creative. I mean, if you do that and win, great. That's the
great, yeah,
best
yeah.
option. But if you can't just win the game, you've after so much of effort, 105th minute you scored one goal. Come on,
I
all
have
you
a
need to
very
do
good
is
goal, huh?
wait.
A very good
Yeah.
goal, a very
Oh,
well worked
yeah.
goal. Walked through the entire like Croatian team to score. Like,
Yeah.
even if you hold back, you will have chances to score after that. You know.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think the substitutions were wrong. I think initially they should not have taken off all the three forward players. And then at
I
the end, once
agree.
you scored, like the substitution should be more tactical, not like for like.
I agreed wholeheartedly with why they didn't bring Martinelli on. Like I was talking, we were talking even during the match when Aaron and we were watching it together. Like we're like, why would you bring like have Pedro or you have you know Rodrigo playing on the left was weird, and then you have Anthony who wasn't doing anything. I was like, then it was a matter of who do you bring. I was like, sub off Anthony. I know you just brought him on, sub him off. He's doing nothing. I don't care even if it looks bad, sub him off and bring on Martinelli because I know that he's in good form even for club and country. So bring him on, let him do something, let him attempt. I know they've lost out on Jesus
Jesus.
being injured. That's unfortunate, but yeah, it's a bit sad. We've all praised Brazil. We all thought they were the favorites, but I think when you look at it, I mean, the midfield is like all it's one sided, it's one dimensional. They all play similar. Sort of missing like the Coutinho type, a Coutinho or a Oscar type, maybe Cam or someone who can create. I know Neymar plays the Cam role anyway, but apart from him, you needed someone to support him. He can't do everything by himself. Like
To be
Vinicius doesn't
honest, I
offer
think the
much.
midfield is quite well balanced, though. Like when you have Casemiro playing with Paqueta and whoever your third midfielder is, I think
No,
it's quite balanced.
it's
Like,
initially fine, but like when you can't break down teams, you need to have someone who can take the shots from far. Like Casemiro is that player, but he takes too long to take the shot. Like we saw once, like he had the ball and he's like, preparing to shoot. By that time, the Croatian defender the midfielder came and stole the ball away. By the time he could take the shot, so I'm not saying as a starting 11, fine, it's balanced, but I feel like maybe someone else on the bench who is that difference maker.
I mean, the
Uh,
only way to add something in midfield would be to take off an attacker because they're playing with four attackers, right? So you can't really have
yeah,
two people in a pivot who are very attacking. And I think Paqueta is quite attacking for being in a midfield pivot role.
uh,
If they want, they could have brought on Bruno Guimaraes, who's playing
oh
again very
yeah,
well
he
for
was actually there. I
Newcastle.
forgot about him. Yeah,
But
yeah,
uh, but yeah, like I don't think it was a formation issue or anything. It was just pure like mentality, you know, like just 15 minutes, celebrate after. Like why
yeah.
before, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. In terms of the predictions, we did say that Croatia would put up a fight, but I kind of predicted that Brazil would probably win the comfortably. I suppose I was going based off the previous game against Korea, but fair enough. I mean, fair play to Croatia. The keeper again. What an asset to have there. Like we've seen it last year, 4 years ago, when they won a lot of the knockouts during penalty shootouts or in penalty shootouts. The keeper Subotic was insane there. Now they've got Livakovic, I think. I mean, these guys just keep getting keepers who work wonders for them. Let's move on now to the third game, and I think that is the England-France game. Uh, Again, a huge game. Arjun? What did you make of it? Like as a whole, I know it was tactical. It was like neither side. I expected France to probably blow away England, but I also felt that it would be closer. I expected France to win. I didn't expect them to blow away. My prediction was that France would win. It would be quite tight. But like moments before the game, I felt like France were. I mean, I told these guys like I feel it's not going to end up well for France. And I was somewhat right because they seem so lethargic. They seem like lack devoid of any sort of intent or pace that they normally have. I expected Mbappe to take on Maguire every single time or try something different, or Dembele, but yeah, it just felt quite stale. Apart from I thought the first goal would open things up, but it didn't. So, what did you make of the entire game?
Yeah, I think the game completely was exactly what you said, right? Like very reserved. Like I don't think the game was played on emotion a lot. I think they did negate Mbappe quite well because they played Henderson, but France's defense is not the defense that won them the World Cup. They were playing a lot of players out of position. I feel Varane was not the player he used to be, but still world class, not the player he used to be. Kunde was playing as the right back when he's played traditionally as centre back in club football. Playing with Upamecano has made a lot of mistakes as well. Like growing up, he's not like the finished product by any means. So why didn't England attack them? They could have played Mason Mount instead of Jordan Henderson and actually taken the game to France. So I think they started off playing a bit negatively by their team selection and playing Henderson uh, and Walker for negating Mbappe, which basically meant that you're relying on individual brilliance to win, and that's what France had because both their goals were just very, very well worked. I think the
Yeah.
first was almost like no like
There was no build-up play. It just seemed out of the blue.
yeah, it was out of the blue, like no setup, like it was just a
Yeah.
very quick shot, like a turn and a shot, and yeah, they deserved to score that goal. And even before that, like France didn't really have the chances. I think
Yeah.
Dembele just missed one very good chance, but apart from that, it was all England. Like England created the better chances. The most of the play came from the right, so Mbappe didn't really support his left back when Saka was there. Um so yeah, I think a lot of good attacks came down England's right. So I think Saka did really well. He also won them the penalty. I think he didn't get a lot of help because Henderson tried to then switch with Saka by playing on the right when Saka went down the middle. But again, like I don't think Henderson should have started the game. I think that also showed the mentality that they had. They were too obsessed with closing down Mbappe, and then they let gaps in midfield. So Xiaomeni scored, and yeah, it was a very tactical game. I don't think it was the best game of the World Cup, but it was a very good story to write, because of the penalty misses and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, of course. But Aaron, let's talk about England. I know Southgate's got a lot of stick for the selections that he's made, the sort of style that he has done. But like Arjun mentioned, I think while watching it, we were probably had our hearts in our mouth more often when England were on the attack than when France was. So does credit go to the fact that to England, I don't know whether you want to give credit to Southgate or to England about how they managed to press France much better, because France, apart from Griezmann and Dembele up front, there was no press whatsoever. Mbappe wasn't pressing. The commentators themselves said that he's not going to press. So fair, okay. So that's one person you're not going to press. Giroud's positioning until I suppose before he scored was completely off. I don't know how Giroud finds himself offside. The guy doesn't run, he doesn't do anything. He's just if you're not running or you're not that fast, you really don't need to find yourself offside. I don't know. Probably great from England's defense to probably keep him offside or to play the offside trap when for Giroud. But overall, what did you make of England as an attacking unit rather before we get onto the defensive sides?
England's attacking, I think we'll give them credit and say they did well in spite of Southgate. Like Arjun mentioned, probably Henderson didn't help with the attacks moving forward. And I mean, you can't really fault Henderson for that. That's not what he's in the side to do. So, but whenever he was trying to support Saka, it felt more like he was a hindrance than a help to Saka because he'd try and give the ball for a quick 1-2, and Henderson would probably just sit on it for days. So yeah, I think in spite of the selection that Southgate made, they did do a good job. We, as usual, as we've come become accustomed to seeing, Harry Kane has become a pretty good supplier of the ball. He drops back, kind of spreads out the play, and thanks to the lack of pressure from the French, he had enough time to kind of look up and pick out the passes that he wanted. Foden probably didn't have the best of games, but whenever he did try and kind of run circles around Konde, he seemed to be able to do it at will, but it was just a matter of him doing it, which he, for whatever reason, wasn't able to. Saka, like Arjun mentioned, and you also kind of touched upon it, he was probably their best player. He was a little bit more direct than the other English, and which helped. Theo Hernandez being a little bit more attacking minded also probably helped him with his cause. So he was able to make penetrating runs into the box and kind of get all the show the inexperience of the French defense, and that's where I guess the penalty came. Needless tackle probably. Second penalty was the same. I think even the free kick that Rashford took at the end was a
Yeah,
needless foul to be given. I mean, it's not that had Maguire was going to be shooting from there, so it's more about containing him rather than trying to put in the tackle. So I think the French inexperience, and also I think it kind of showed us that France is not all that they seem to be. I think we gave them a lot of credit because of previous results and probably the previous World Cup. And we just assumed that France is going to be the same France of old. But I think yesterday's game, when they were really under pressure, you could see that it was getting to them. I think the statistics showed also their inability to win the ball back as quickly as England were. England, I think they were showing was like under 10 seconds or something like that, which is unheard of
I
in a
think
football
I
game.
think it was 20. It was 20 seconds and 32 seconds for France. But yeah,
Probably, I'm
yeah,
probably remembering it wrong, but yeah, but it was significantly quicker than the French were. They were very laid off and unimaginative. Again, I think I've said that quite a lot about many of the teams, so let's avoid that. But yeah, you could see that they were predominantly boxed in. Weren't able to get out much, and you have to give England credit for that. I guess they managed the game. Um, they managed Mbappe well. I think Dembele was slightly off. He seemed to be uh, a step or two slow. There were a couple of times where the ball reached him and he wasn't expecting it, and it was
yeah,
just a
yeah.
bad control, and he lost the ball. So it was a kind of a weird game because you expected quality on both sides, and it kind of failed to deliver on that front. But I think as a spectacle, and at the end, the way the goals came about, I think that was pretty cool to watch.
Yeah, I know I know Arjun wouldn't like to hear this, but I think Harry Kane really put Upamecano to the sword there. I think he used the fact that he managed to use his physicality against Upamecano, who's had a really good World Cup until last night. Like he's been quite an impress. Like I know he's young, he's got lots to learn, but he's been quite solid in defense. But Harry Kane, and then eventually even Saka. But Harry Kane initially, when he turned Upamecano like he was nothing and almost scored there, right, against Hugo Lloris. Like it really showed that this French defense isn't what it is. Like Kunde, oh my God, Kunde is so frustrating to watch. I know right backs is not his position, but like it's so evident. It is so evident that he doesn't prefer playing there. Theo Hernandez again he's not a. I mean he's great, but he isn't like going to be a world class beater. He's not going to take on every winger or every defender. So I really felt that France were there for the taking. That second penalty by Theo Hernandez, I don't know what he was thinking. Like I know the ball wasn't even going to who was it? Foden or no? Who's the one
Mason
who
Mount.
Mount.
Mason Mount? Mount, yeah. Yeah, I know. Seconds before that, I texted on the group saying that why they brought Mason Mount, he's useless, and then he wins the penalty. But that was stupid. Like, I don't understand what Theo Hernandez was doing, and even in the last dying moments where, like you mentioned, Aaron, when they took out Harry Maguire, like he even if like it'll be a like if Harry Maguire actually scored from there, like hands, like you can't
Yeah,
do anything about it. But
fair
yeah,
play
fair
to
play.
him, but yeah.
What are the odds of that happening? And you'd rather let him take the shot than have like a Rashford or a free kick take place, and that was really close. We've
Yeah, he
seen what
wasn't
happened.
far off, so yeah,
We saw what happened
mind-boggling.
in the Argentina game as well, right? Like you don't know what maybe they've practiced something special or something unique, so you never really know, and you don't want to be caught out with that. And added to all of that, Hugo Lloris was so suspect. Every time the ball went to him, either in the air or at his feet, I closed my eyes because I didn't know what was coming next. Like his distribution was poor or shocking at times, and his aerial abilities were mind-boggling. I remember there was one point where I don't know if it was a corner or a free kick where he just kept going behind and he missed it completely, and they could have scored from there. It was basically, I wouldn't say an open net, but like they could have scored there, and Loris would have looked like a complete ass. But yeah, it's definitely, I think some credit goes to England, but yeah, again, Harry Kane there to spurs it up with that penalty. I can't believe he missed it. I mean, like you've taken the first one with such aplomb, and you've managed, like you are a good penalty taker, and there's no denying he's a good penalty taker. But I can't believe, I don't know if it's the nerves that got him there or what, but yeah.
It's just the English being English. I did say that they'd get in their own head, so
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
But
very
yeah.
very interesting thing was I was watching again in a bar, and it was filled with like English or French fans, and the people who supported England were only people who were English, and the people who supported France were people who were like French plus neutrals, you know.
everyone
So
else, rest of the world.
plus the rest of the world. So it just seemed a bit also, you know, like yeah, like when has it come home? Like why are you so arrogant? Like it was a bit like that. But no, I like also don't get me wrong. I think Harry Kane had a good game. I think it
Mm,
would be defined on a very bad moment, and that's what
yeah.
people would remember. But he did have a good game, and he has had a good tournament. But I think
I I
for the
didn't. I think.
banter, it's nice to.
Do you think he's had good? I think he's had a decent. I felt like 2018 was probably a better tournament for him than this one. Uh, I may be wrong. I think.
Yeah,
I,
but
I
I
mean, I
mean,
suppose he's. I suppose his role has also changed. He's probably become more of a provider, like Aaron mentioned early on. He's become more of a provider. He's dropped back a lot more. 2018 is more a poacher, an attacking, a striker. So
yeah,
maybe that's why
but to
I'm
be
going
fair,
for.
in 2018 and even now, like England reached okay the semi-finals and now the quarters, the Euros in the finals. Like
uh,
the road to get there was not like difficult for them.
Yeah, yeah,
Like even the previous World Cup, they played Croatia in the semis and they lost. Sweden in the quarterfinal of the World Cup and they won. Like those games,
yeah.
okay, like fair. They can only play what's in front of them, but like,
Euros.
you could have had a more difficult route to actually test if that position was won by
But that's
merit
the
or
case, right? They've done that every World Cup 2018, Euros 2020. They hadn't faced anyone except Italy in the final, like
yeah.
Denmark and all of that. So yeah, you're essentially the first time you play an opponent who is as good as you or even better. They haven't been able to get over that hurdle. So same old
Yeah, in the
story.
2018 World
Uh,
Cup, they lost three games. They
yeah,
lost twice to Belgium and once to Croatia. So, and every other game was pretty easy to win.
yeah, yeah.
Like in the sense, okay, I'm not saying the game was decided before it started, but if you play Sweden in a quarterfinal, you are expected to win that game. Granted, like
Yeah.
England teams in the past haven't done that with
Yeah,
Roy Hodgson
Iceland.
and stuff, but that's again a very low bar. You know, like if you
Yeah.
consider yourself to be the best team in the world, you have to win against France, you have to win against Croatia and stuff like that. But
Exactly. Fair enough. The last game we have is Morocco Portugal. So we see one more. We see Cristiano leave which is arguably his last ever World Cup. Though now his sisters posted saying that 41 is a prime age for playing football. So you never know. But what did you guys think? Like Portugal, for like personally, I felt Portugal really didn't do anything. Bruno is probably the only player that maybe had any sort of impact there. He tried. I'm not saying he did much, but he tried. No, like Bernardo's had a shocker of a World Cup. Ronaldo has had a shocker of a World Cup. Uh, I can't think of many people in that. The keeper, oh my god, for that goal, I don't know what he was doing. They flapping his hand about, and yeah, I think they gave it all. I think in terms of Portugal, they put all the attackers out there that they could. Even João Felix was okay. I mean, like, he had few moments. Like his World Cup's been defined by moments. He's had a few moments, but apart from that, been nothing. So, what did you guys think, Arjun, of the Morocco game?
Yeah, I think like as a way to set up a team, I think Morocco have it down to like well drilled, well set up. Uh, they I think were what we were talking about. What Brazil should have done. Like they scored. Doesn't matter how. They took off all the players who are considered stars, so to speak, uh, and then defensive block with a 5-3-2, and those two players were very quick up front, and then 5-3-2. That's it, and they literally just had a flat block. So it was very difficult for any team to create chances against them. I think everyone's spoken about this quite often that they've only conceded one goal in this World Cup, and that was an own goal. But their expected goals against was 3.8 or 4 across the whole tournament. So that means they should have conceded 4 goals, but they didn't. And I don't know if that's a luck thing or just circumstance thing or bad finishing by the opposition across the games. Because I'm talking about this for the whole tournament, right? Not just one game.
Yeah.
But even yesterday, Portugal had, I think, one half chance that Ronaldo had. One half chance that João Felix had. One header that
Pepe missed.
Pepe had.
Pepe or Ramos.
Pepe.
Yeah. Pepe, yeah. That's it.
Yeah, and Ramos also had one wide. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was just a few things, but I think you could also see the panic set in the Portuguese team because after 45, 50 minutes, you concede and then you bring on Bernardo Silva. You have Bernardo Silva, João Felix, Ramos, Ronaldo, and Bruno playing all for 40 minutes in a semi-final of a World Cup. Who's your midfielder? Like who's there to hold back? Because even then, like Morocco had a couple of chances after that. Like I think Aaron, you mentioned this at the end, the one-on-one, the midfielders had a free run to run. All of this was only because they panicked, Like calm down. Like it's okay. You have 40 minutes to score. Like you have enough quality. Like the Portuguese team has enough quality to score a few goals past Morocco. But I think the lack of trust in their own formation is what I think caused them a downfall. Like you don't start Ronaldo, I get it. Like because he doesn't play the way Portugal play. He doesn't run anymore and press anymore and all of that. Why do you deviate from that formation just because you concede a single goal in the first half? Like I think how a team commits to their principles is what will take them further. And I think Morocco committed to their principles better, and that's why they are in the semi-final. And that's well earned, by the way.
Yeah. I think, in terms of the moment they started putting Ronaldo and every other attacker, Horta on and everybody on the pitch, it was like, okay, this is all or nothing. And Morocco were just laughing there. I think they were like, sure, come. And they knew that the Portuguese players were so out of form that, Hakimi on the right. And I don't know why, but they just kept targeting Hakimi on that side. And I'm like, that's their best defender. That's their best fullback. Like, why would you try and take him on? And he just was relishing in it. And a lot of chances came from there. And that last chance should have been put away. Like that would have been the icing on the cake. But at the end of the day, and this was also despite the fact that, or in spite, Morocco having their second major centre back stretchered off. I think they had Mazraoui, who had gone off earlier, who's injured, and now they've got
Yeah.
Saiss, who's gone off, and I think one more defender, centre back, had already been injured. So, despite all of that, the substitutions who have come on, who they stuck to their job, they didn't falter, and I mean, kudos to them. Uh, yeah, and also you're talking about the expected goals being 4 or 3. Yeah, I guess some of it's luck and bad finishing, but the keeper as well, Bono, seems so assured. Like anytime the ball is floated in, he's there to either punch it or catch it, and so that sort of there's a lot of trust in that back line with Morocco. They trust each other, they know each other's role, and that sort of worked.
Yeah,
Aaron,
and he,
your
he he
thoughts?
just seemed calm. Like the keeper just seemed very assured. Like every time the ball goes out, he just started laughing. Like you could see on camera, you know. And I'm like, aren't you even a little bit pressurized to play this game like against Portugal? No.
But I suppose that's and I don't know, Aaron, if you'll agree with me, but I suppose that's the benefit of being like an underdog who there aren't any huge expectations. Everyone expected Portugal to win and everyone expected CR7. So the fact that you're just there playing and the fact that you're leading 1-0 and Portugal are struggling to get past you, I mean, you laugh it out. Like, what else can you do? You don't really don't. There's not that much of a pressure on you.
Yeah, I think just them being able to go out there and enjoy the spectacle. I mean, the Moroccan fans were amazing out there. I mean, they were just
Oh,
so
except for the
boisterous.
Jersey, man.
Everything was drowned out except for them. So, yeah, with without the expectations plus the positive of going ahead, and then we could see it here on the screen that all those Portugal players are just wide-eyed, and you could see them kind of implode. Like Arjun mentioned, they just deviated from their initial tactics, which was so unnecessary. All you would see was them going out wide and then crossing the ball in, which Morocco was dealing with so comfortably. You didn't see them change it. They were just whipping in balls, defenders heading it back out, and credit to them, their headers for the most part were quite well directed, so that it forced Portugal to kind of rebuild their attack from scratch again. So they were getting those headers and clearances out quite deep. So yeah, I think if it was so evident for us to see the inexperience and the implosion from so far out, I'm pretty sure that kind of buoyed the Moroccans as well, who would have seen this and said, bring it on. If that's all you're going to do, we're up for it. I think one thing that Portugal lacked was the pragmatism, because I mean you could see the Moroccan centre back. I can't remember his name. He was cramping up
Yeah.
every header that he went out. He was trying to get that leg stretched out and things like that. And it kind of boggles the mind to think, why not try and take them on once in a while through the center? I mean, you can see that crosses are not doing the job. Try something, mix it up, do something different, and it just wasn't happening. And like you mentioned, I think it was only Bruno that kind of showed any sort of desire and fight. Uh, Bernardo Silva, I don't know what happened there. Bad touches, bad decision making, passing was so wavered. And that all kind of then feeds into your own team when you can see someone that's so so experienced and is kind of having such a shocker. Then the younger players like Ja Felix and stuff like that kind of think like, is this not our day? Is something gonna go wrong here? And you could just see that seep through the entire Portugal team, and I guess that's how it played out in the end.
All right. Fair enough. Yeah, they even put out Rafael Leao, so they had pace as well. I mean, Dalo was basically useless on that wing. Crosses were just
Yeah.
going straight into onto Moroccan heads. All right, let's move on to now the semifinals, and we probably just like do a quick prediction of what you think is going to happen. So the the first semifinal that's going to happen will be Croatia versus Argentina. Do you think Croatia? I mean, this, if it goes to penalties, will be really, really interesting because both keepers and both sets of players are pros at it. But do you see that happening, or do you kind of see maybe Argentina having the upper hand, or Croatia will put the suffocation onto the players, like onto the Argentinians. Anyone?
Arjun, you can go first.
Yeah, I think Croatia Argentina is an interesting game. I think it has some history in past World Cups. Um, I think Argentina are too good. Like over 90 minutes, over 120 minutes, and if penalties come into play, I think in all three segments of the game, I think Argentina are just too good against Croatia. I'm not underestimating Croatia, but even in the wins this tournament, they weren't playing that well. Even against Brazil, they didn't play great football, but they found a way to win. I know that matters in football, but I think eventually the performance will come and kind of supersede that. So I think Argentina know how to win. Argentina can, I think, tackle a defensive block if that's how Croatia decided to set up. So I think it will be a close game, but 2-0 to Argentina, I think. Something
Okay.
like that.
All right. Fair enough. Aaron?
Yeah, I think similar to Arjun. Only thing I would add is I think compared to Brazil and some of these other teams going around, I think Argentina is one of the teams that are kind of up for a dogfight. There's no just they're not the delicate players like you see going around. They've got the mixture of both skillful and flashy creativity as well as just putting in hard tackles, running up and down, closing down players and things like that way. So I think that's going to bode well for them. Like Arjun mentioned, over 90 minutes or 120 minutes, or even if it goes down to penalties, Argentina is experienced in all facets of those, and you do expect them. Just looking at that side, you do kind of see that at the end of the day, that their quality and their ability to grind out games should put them in good stead. So I think probably a 2-0 win for them. I don't see it going to penalties, to be honest.
Okay. Hopefully. I mean, can't be bear
What
to
do you
sit
think?
down again at 11 o'clock. Yeah, I think, I don't think it'll be 2-0. I think it'll just be a 1-0 victory. But I think it might go to extra time. Unless maybe a Messi penalty wins it early on. But I think, like, a shout out to Guardiola. I mean, he against Brazil was in crazy form. I think he's been one of the lone I mean, shout out even to Lovren, who's surprisingly been quite like he's been the quiet, consistent performer. No one's really talking about it, but I think Gvardiol has been putting those really insane performances, and I feel he might stifle Argentina for a while. I'm guessing maybe I think a Messi penalty. Now I would say maybe in extra time, but it could be even before that. So I would think 1-0 to Argentina. But let's see how that goes. The next semifinal that we have is France versus Morocco, and I think I would really love for Morocco to put up a great fight, but I feel like the fact that Morocco may be getting hard done by a lot of injuries. Like even we saw Ziyech go off and he was substituted immediately. We saw the center back get, he was subbed off. So it would have to be like a freak goal, like how we saw against Portugal, where it's like from a corner or a set piece or from a free kick or even from a cross, basically, where Morocco score. I think France, though, definitely have the upper hand. Giroud is, again, he's been such a great player for France. He comes up with the goods always, even if Mbappe doesn't. He's always there. He's the other threat. For me, Griezmann's been their standout performer. The way he's reinvented himself as a midfielder, as a cam, and the one doing all the pressing. Um, I I suppose that would be like a 3-1 victory for France. Aaron, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the physical conditioning of the Moroccans will probably be tested here, and yeah, it'll be scary to watch two blistering quick players bearing down on them in Dembele and Mbappe. So that'll be something that Morocco will kind of have to see how they want to set up to kind of deal with that. Again, we'll have to see what happens with their centre backs and how they kind of turn out for that game because you've got someone in Giroud who's smart and knows how to get into positions to score goals. So it's not going to be easy, and none of their games have been easy. But yeah, this is like a whole different monster to kind of deal with because you've got. Well, we didn't see it in the last game, but you've got a attack that's pretty dynamic. You've got people that can shoot from outside the box, people that run down the wings, and then you've got Giroud in the center. So yeah, they've got a lot of kind of areas to kind of batten down and very kind of you know take care of. So that's going to be interesting. If Morocco are to score, like you said, I think it's probably going to be down to Lloris having one of the moments like the Portuguese goalkeeper had coming out for a ball that wasn't there, and he almost did it last night when he was
Yeah, that's
probably
possible.
down on his butt, and the ball just ricocheted to him and into his arms, and he was lucky there. So um, I'm hoping that Morocco do put up a fight and hopefully maybe get a goal, but I do see France winning it by a couple of goals, I guess.
Yeah, I think also to mention that Hakimi will probably be the one to keep Mbappe quiet. He's on the right hand side.
Yeah.
Mbappe will play on the left wing. So that'll be interesting to see how that. I mean, Hakimi is no like slow defender. Like he's not any, I don't know what he says, slowpoke or whatever you call it. But like he's not going to be sitting idly there. He will try and irritate the living hell out of Mbappe. Arjun, your prediction?
Yeah, it's a difficult game, right, to predict. I don't want to
Yeah.
go hipster and say Morocco, but I think the game comes down to can France beat a very defensive block from Morocco? Because I think that's what
Yeah.
it'll come down to. From what you've seen this tournament, no, they can't. Like even individually, like okay, they've had moments, but no, they can't. And I also disagree a little bit with the way Morocco have scored. Like I think both of you have said, like okay, it was a moment of madness by the keeper and stuff, but in a lot of games, Morocco have had very good chances, even apart from the
Yeah.
goal they scored. Like they have been very good on the counter attack. So yes, I think Ziyech being fit is going to be important. I also disagree with both of you, I guess, a little bit on how tired the players will be, because this is the biggest game in their lives. They're not going to play a game bigger than this ever. So I don't think
No, I'm like,
90
it's
minutes
not
are
about
going to
tired,
be
but I'm
tired.
whether they'll be fit itself, because we saw them already. One got stretchered off, one's got cramp, one's got
Yeah.
off the field. So I'm just based on
Yeah,
that.
for sure.
Whether
I think
if they're fit,
the
fair enough.
injuries, as you said, right, will have a part to
Yeah.
play. Like Mazraoui, Saiss, and Ziyech. I think if they have Ziyech fit, it's
Yeah.
it's a very different Morocco team that you're talking about, because they have the threat to score a little bit more. Like because I think Ziyech has an excellent left foot. Like you've seen so many times, he just pass balls across the field. I find it difficult to predict this, but I think I'm just going with my gut and saying 1-0 Morocco.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, after all of this, I really hope for a Croatia-Morocco final. That would really be something. That would really be something. I think that would really cap off this tournament which has anyway been like had a lot of upsets and all of that. That would really be the ultimate final for. It'll be so apt to have that as a final. But yeah, I mean, we'd all want probably Argentina, France just for the spectacle and the big names, but Morocco Croatia final would be, I don't know how it would be, but it's something that would be a different spectacle, something different to behold.
Yeah.
All right, now before we end this podcast, a small game which is basically for the next podcast, but we're going to play like a small fantasy game. So I want you guys to do your create a team of 5, and based on the fantasy points, we'll see who wins. That's basically it. All right. So obviously the players who are playing now in the semifinals. So Arjun, let's start off with your goalkeeper.
But
Let's
this
start
is-
off. Let's
One sec. This is
Yeah,
for
go-
only the semifinals, right? So only
only semifinals. One goalkeeper.
Martinez.
Martinez. Okay, Aaron, your goalkeeper. Okay, wait.
I think I'd stick with.
Okay.
I think I'd stick with Martinez too. I think just the experience and his quality. puts him up there.
Okay, one minute. Wait. Okay, I just need to put this up here because others I'll forget. So Martinez and Aaron is Martinez as well. Okay, great. Next up, we've got your defenders or however you want to play this. So, Aaron, let's go with yours.
I think I'd give Hakimi the nod.
Okay.
Centre backs. Who am I going for?
I mean, okay. Let's do one fullback, one centre back, and then one midfielder and one striker. So that way it'll be 5. So great.
Okay.
So let's do fullback first. So let's do fullback first. So Arjun,
centre
your
back.
let's do fullback first. So Arjun, your fullback.
Actually, let Aaron go for centre back. I just
Okay,
need
fine.
to.
Okay.
I just need to.
Good.
Give me a second.
All right, Aaron, give me your centre back.
I think just based off the matchups for the semi-final, I'd probably put Varane there because I don't think he'll be troubled as much. So I'll go with Varane.
Okay. All right. And all right.
Okay,
Arjun, are you ready?
Yeah, I'd go Hakimi and Guardiola.
Okay. All right. Okay. And your midfielder, Arjun?
Modric.
Okay. I mean, yeah. Think about the points that you're going to be getting, though. So in terms of where he score, where he not.
Yeah, Modric.
So
Who's that? I didn't get that.
Modric.
Okay.
Yours, Aaron?
I think the Argentina-Croatia one is going to require someone to kind of do something extraordinary. So I think I'll go with Mr. Messi up there.
Are we putting? Okay, I'll put Messi as a strike. I'll put him as a forward. So if you want.
Okay, I just figured that he's dropping back deep quite a bit, so could kind of pass for one. So okay, cool.
So,
I mean, if you consider Messi as midfielder, then I think the game dynamics changes a little bit. But okay, sure.
Cool. Let's scratch that then. Then I'll probably go the same way as Arjun and put in Modric there.
Okay, all right. And your last one, forward line. Your Arjun. I know, Aaron. You're going Messi.
Yep.
Okay, Arjun. There's so many.
Julian Alvarez.
Oh, okay. Different. Alvarez. Interesting. Okay, so I've got your team of 5. So we will reconvene in the next podcast and see how many points you guys have won for all of that.
And what's your?
Maybe okay. Let me put mine also, since let me also try and play in this game. So my goalkeeper will be Livakovic. Because why not? Actually no. My goalkeeper. Yeah, actually no. Livakovic. Yeah. My fullback will be. Oh, that's a good one. I'll actually put Hernandez up there. Just because I feel like maybe he'd assist something. Centre back, I'm going Gvardiol. I don't care what people say. I'm just going Gvardiol. My midfield, I'm going Griezmann. There's a lot of French people. And actually, wait. You know what? That's going to be actually as my midfield. I'm going to put. No, I want to put ZX somewhere, but I can't put that. Screw it. I'm going to put Hakimi as my fullback also. Just because I'm going to put my attacker as Giroud. He's not failed me so far. He's not going to fail me again. All right. So that's my top 5. All right. So we will obviously reconvene in the next podcast to see how we've done so far. And if anyone else is joining us for the next podcast, we'll get their top 5 as well now and figure it out before the game start, because otherwise it will just be unfair. And we'll keep the points will be as per the fantasy league points what each player gets. So we'll see how much we get in total. But until then, thank you Arjun and Aaron for being a part of this podcast. Thank you for recapping the quarterfinals for us. And yeah, it was nice talking to you, chatting with you about the World Cup. Hopefully, we can now do that for the semifinals and see whether there are more surprises, what surprises lay in store for us for the future, whether it will be an Argentina, France, Argentina, or a Croatia, Morocco. I don't see it being like a mixed bag. I don't see it being
France,
like
Croatia
Argentina.
again.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. Yeah, France, Croatia, part two,
Yeah.
another. So yeah, definitely would love to have you on that podcast. But thank you once again for coming on here and giving your thoughts on this.
Thank you for
It's
having
been
us.
fun. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, and thank you to those of you who are watching this. If you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and let us know what you thought of the quarterfinals and what you expect from the semifinals as well. Yeah, if you're listening to this on the audio podcast, whether it be Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, do follow us. You can also follow us on Instagram. The links are all in the description down below. You can also see this on the screens. If you're watching this on YouTube, you know where to follow us on. And I'll catch you all on the next episode where we'll be recapping the semifinals and talking about the finals. I'm your host, Praddy, once again. You stay safe and see you.